Chapter 21. Win to Surrender. "Here they come!" shouted Delta. She had been watching the deliberations from the battlements. When the major drew her bow, she slipped behind a hoarding out of prudence. The shot went wide, but it cost them precious seconds as their line started their sprint towards the keep. The 3 guards jumped up, bows ready, and fired off as many shots as they could at the approaching troops. They were well disciplined, though, and the 4 shields kept their guard high, with the other 2 crouching below. A few arrows clattered off the shields, but none managed to do any harm. "Gideon, keep firing! Keep their heads down!" ordered Delta. "Leoncio and Joshua, check to see if the kettle has boiled. Bring it up and dump it on them. I'll back up Zipper at the gate, see what they're up to." Delta belted down the stairs, calling encouragements to Gwen as she passed. She hurtled down to the bottom floor and asked, "What's going on?" "Hard to say," said Zipper. There was a rhythmic pounding on the door. "That just started up. I think it's the dwarf with the axe." She was bobbing back and forth next to the right-hand slit by the door, angling for a view. "I can't see much from here. That they're there and they're holding their shields up to block the arrows." Delta felt the inside of the door. It was sturdy, but it wouldn't hold out long against a determined axe. Dwarves were supposed to be the experts at this sort of thing anyway. Zipper grinned. "Well, now you're here, let's get started." Delta looked over, and Zipper had arranged some crates and a barrel next to the left slit. "Arrows aren't the only thing that can go through an arrow slit," chortled Zipper. She stepped up on a low box in front of it, quietly, and peered through. Delta followed her lead and got up on the barrels behind her. From this vantage point, she could see better. What she saw told her that the 4 shields were on either side of the door, arms held high, forming an arch with the shields over the other 2. The dwarf was in the middle, pounding away at the door. She wasn't quite sure where the major was. Zipper saw her opening and lunged suddenly. There was a sharp cry and a howl of indignation from the other side of the slit. Delta caught a brief glance of a pale white face behind a helmet peering in with a very angry look on it. Then she brought her glaive down heavy on the helmet, and it disappeared. Zipper lunged again, for good measure, but didn't connect with anything. There was a curse in a language Delta had never heard before, and a large scutum shield slammed over the arrow slit. Zipper lunged at this, but it only pressed it a little bit back. The leverage was on the other side of the wall. Zipper motioned quickly to Delta to keep it up. So Delta did a few thrusts and swings. It didn't have any great effect. But while she did it, Zipper tiptoed over to the other slit, jumped up, and shot a lunge through it. She was rewarded with another great howl that had come from one of the Orcus troops. Another shield slammed up against the second slit, and Zipper grinned. She poked at it several times to keep it in place, grinning like the cat who ate the canary. "What have you got planned next?" asked Delta. "Me," said Zipper innocently. "Not a thing. Just stand ready. If our boys upstairs have their heads about them, I expect that they would—" She didn't have to finish. There was a large whoosh and screams and shouts from the other side of the door. Zipper leaped and started stabbing at anything that moved. Delta, likewise, took what targets of opportunity she could while they were in disarray. The zips of arrows indicated that those above were doing likewise. The hacking at the door had stopped. There were more yelps and barked orders from the major. There were clunks and shuffles as their immediate targets disappeared from sight. The rate of arrow fire also slackened off. Delta scanned left and right, but couldn't see anything through the slit. She turned to Zipper, but she shrugged as well. Delta stepped back and ventured up the stairs, enough to get her head up to the second level. Gwen looked over at her from the window. She mimed with her hands a small pyramid and pointed downwards. Delta nodded and went back down. "Gwen says that they pulled their formation in and made a steeper shield wall." Tentatively, the hacking on the door started up again. Zipper shrugged. "It was never going to take them out, only slow them down." She looked around. "We can stack up more stuff, make it harder for them to get through. The 2 of us can hold them off for a while. On the stairs, at least for a while." Delta shook her head. "That just buys more time. It doesn't win the battle." She thought furiously. "If we can't stop them taking the tower, what does that leave us?" "Not being in the tower?" asked Zipper, sarcastically. Delta looked sidelong at the slit. "They're going to be pretty busy. We probably could slip down the walls and out." She looked the other way at the other animal stalls. "But without the animals, we couldn't get far before they caught us. Not to mention getting Johnston down on a rope," said Zipper. She was still craning to see something out the window. "No," agreed Delta. "We need a hammock or some sort of cradle." Then she grinned. "Keep an eye on things down here. I'm going to have a word with the boys." She stepped up the stairs lively and gave a thumbs up to Gwen and called encouragement to Leonosio and Joshua, who were refilling the pot. She came out on the top where Gideon was peering despondently through the slit, looking for a target for his bow. "It was a good try," he said. "It's not over yet," said Delta. He looked up curious. She lowered her voice. "The last battle I was in with these guys, I ended up surrendering and was treated quite well. They even gave me a contract afterwards." "You want to surrender?" he asked. "Not quite," said Delta. "I'm saying this to you to reassure you. Let's get everyone together on the main floor." They went back down and called to Zipper, quietly. Zipper shook her head coming up. "They're chopping again. Lower down. They had to start over through, though. I thought I might get them under the bottom of the door." She shook her fingers at the guards. "But your construction is too good. The threshold is too flat." Gideon shrugged apologetically. "Here's what we're going to do," said Delta. She then outlined her plan to them. They thought about it for a short time and then began to grin. It took the attackers another 40 minutes to break through the door into the first floor. "They're in," called Gideon, who was watching through the maculation. "That's our signal," said Delta. "Go, go, go." She and Zipper hefted up one of the light, shallow smuggler's boats they had confiscated and stowed about the tower. A rope had been tied around either side, and they lowered it gently down the side of the hoarding. With gentle clicks, Gwen coaxed a nervous Johnston up the side and onto the boat. He cautiously pawed the boat, and with further urging stepped into it, and with another command settled. Gwen stroked him reassuringly between the shoulder blades and nodded. Delta and Zipper slowly started hand-over-handing the rope, lowering as close to each other as possible. Gideon looked out over the edge and gave them hand signals to keep it level. Down below they heard a thump and a crash. There was a banging, and a groaning, and another crash. "Just a little longer," said Delta. But then the rope went slack. "She's down," cried Delta. "Go, Gideon. Leonosio and Joshua may have piled up half of the keep on that kitchen table, but those orcs are strong. Go down and sit on it, and keep them as busy as you can, for as long as you can." She grabbed him as he turned to leave. "Don't take any risks. Surrender when you need to." He grinned at her, saluted, and bounded down the stairs. After first checking where Gwen was, they picked up a few bundles of hastily packed gear and tossed them over the edge. Then they took the ends of the ropes that had lowered the boat and tied them around their waists. "I'm very much not looking forward to this," said Zipper. They leaned out over the hoardings, holding the loose end tightly, and stepped off into space. Cautiously, they fed the rope up, hand over hand, lowering themselves down the side of the tower. They both slipped occasionally, but were able to catch themselves. Their heavy war gloves saved them from getting rope burn. Shaking and covered with sweat, they made it to the bottom. They panted to get their breath back. Gwen was ready, next to the skiff, and they all grinned at each other. Soundlessly, they coiled the rope into the boat, added the packs, and Zipper and Delta hefted it up. They started walking it through the marsh. Gwen went first, through the darkening light. The sun was below the horizon now. There were traces of a path here, which were hard to make out, but the wolf was good at finding the more solid ground amidst the swampy ground, and was able to pick it out. "How long do you think it will take them to work it out?" asked Zipper. "Long enough, I hope," said Delta. The lads were pretty motivated. "It's the most action they've seen in forever," said Zipper, "and they get to say they fought side by side with Wight's brigade." There was a popping noise, and they turned to see a bright white light zip up from the top of the tower. It hovered high in the air and blinked several times in a specific pattern. It repeated twice and then went out. "I guess they worked it out," said Delta. "Water," said Gwen, and the ground ceased to be merely soggy, and pools had opened up. Many of them were connected, and a slow but definite trickle streamed between the nearest two. "Time for a boat trip," said Zipper.